Hey there, so you want to learn to code, but you don't know where to get started, or maybe you have other questions in mind. So don't worry, this video will help you answer a few fundamental questions that you won't find yourself. There are tons of videos on YouTube giving you a roadmap to learn a particular skill or a tech stack, but this video is not one of them. This video is not even for everyone. I designed this video to help people who don't know anything about coding but want to get started. This video is for complete beginners. And by the end of this video, you will have answers to most of the hows and whys of your coding journey if you follow what I tell you. So let's get started. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated. So the first question you should ask yourself is, why do you want to code? If you don't have an answer to this question, you will probably not become a good programmer. The reason is that you won't have an end goal in mind to develop the level of interest needed to become a good programmer. So you should have a clear answer to this question. This could be to find a job, to build your own projects, to start a business, or maybe just for the sake of learning. Whatever the reason is, first find the answer to this question. And you should not be coding because you saw some cool sci-fi movie or watched a YouTube video that sparked your interest. Such interests are often short-lived, and you will probably end up hating coding when you realize it is not what they portray. Okay, so find out why you want to code. This should be the very fundamental question you should be asking yourself. The second thing you want to do is to test your interest and learn the fundamentals of why we all code and what happens behind the scenes and what led to the development of this field. You need to go back to the root level of how things actually work, and let me tell you, it is not difficult. There is a book called Code, The Hidden Language of Computer Hardware and Software by Charles Perrault. This is the only book you need to develop and test your interest in programming and computer science in general. Why is that? It's because this book starts from the very fundamental level of how computer science as a field evolved, right from the basics of Morse code to modern approaches. It's really easy to follow and written with a complete beginners in mind. I highly recommend this book because it will give you the skills needed to understand what you actually do when you code, right? So your perspective on coding will shift. Instead of just seeing lines of codes written in a file, you'll start to understand what those codes are doing behind the scenes. And most importantly, you will have your answer to the question of whether to code or not to code, and for how long you will stay interested in this area. So please read this book before you start coding. When I first started coding, I made two big mistakes. First, I did not follow the previous 2 points, and secondly, I did not start with a simple language. I jumped directly into C++ back in high school. A part of the reason was that nobody was there to help me answer those questions, and I wasn't experienced enough to know the things I now wish I had known when I first started. So my suggestions to you would be to choose a very simple language that will give you a taste of programming, easy to follow, and that will teach you the fundamentals of various coding practices. And the best language you can choose as a beginner is Python. It's easy to follow and has a very simple syntax. At the same time, it will teach you things that will help you adapt to other programming languages more easily. Python may not be the best language overall, but it is the best for beginners, and you can do a lot of things with Python. So stick to it for the time being and get comfortable writing codes. Okay, the best thing is that you won't feel frustrated and you will feel like you are actually making some progress. Python takes away the complexities you need to implement in other languages and offers you a very simple English-like syntax. So learn Python first, then move on to other programming languages you want to learn next. Learning a simple language helps you get exposed to the way coders think. So start simple, start with a simple language like Python. The fourth point is, you can't learn to code by just watching tutorials or videos. If you really want to learn any programming language, pick up a book and start learning from it. Avoid video-based tutorials, instead learn from books. When you read and code along, you'll notice all the small details many YouTube and video-based tutorials often miss. Book authors usually explain everything in depth, so you will become better programmer by reading the book and coding along. Many programming books also include tons of exercises to help you reinforce your learning, so that is the plus point of reading books. Additionally, when you read and practice, the knowledge stays in your brain for a longer period. That's why reading a book is the most efficient way to learn to code. I always follow this approach whenever I want to learn something new rather than relying on some random YouTube video. So let's say you want to start with a Python. You need to pick up a book that teaches you Python, not a YouTube video, and start coding along. There are some very interesting books related to Python programming, and I recommend you check out the books on the website called inventwithpython.com by Al Swegard. He has done really amazing work in this area. So start with a book and don't choose YouTube videos or any other video-based tutorials. The final thing and the most important thing is that you need to understand that learning coding is all about moving your fingers and making mistakes. You'll be frustrated by the errors and may feel like some dumb idiot, but you will have to understand that it's just because you are not familiar with the syntax yet or the way of thinking required for coding. You simply have to code more in order to make fewer mistakes. Sometimes you will feel like an imposter, but you will get better if you stick with it long enough, okay? Finally, remember to do it by hand. When you make a mistake, understand why that mistake happened. Go back to the fundamentals and don't just watch tutorials thinking you are learning to code without actually writing anything. Everything starts when you type your first code, hello world, in your text editor yourself. So start writing. To wrap it up, first thing, ask yourself why you want to code. Second thing is test your interest with a book called Code by Charles Petzold. Third thing is choose a simple language like Python. The fourth thing is learn from the books, not videos. The fifth thing is code. Okay, make mistakes and learn by doing. Don't just watch videos. Finally, and the most important point of this video is to not compare yourself with others. There is always somebody better than you, but there is nobody just like you. So I hope this video helps you take your first step into coding. If it did, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips like this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below.